How do I choose a business coach? I had this question a few weeks ago, and I think it's one that many of us will ask at some point. There are so many experts promising that they have the solution, they have the secret. So how can you kind of dig under the surface, I suppose, of the social media veneer and really understand, is this person going to help me? Now, it's very personal, it's very individual, but let me share my approach to this. We are in an incredible situation now where, first of all, we have access to an audience. We can build our brand, we can put out content without having the elitist barriers to entry as perhaps we used to have. So anybody can start helping people, can start putting out useful content and so on. Now, that's a bit of an issue in the sense that it makes it an incredibly cluttered market because so many different people are putting out content. And let's face it, a lot of these people are charlatans. They might be well-meaning, but they perhaps haven't had the proper training. They have never run a business before. They're just copy-pasting what they got from someone else. Now, a lot of the real rubbish you can kind of skim off the surface quite easily. And you can get a feel for someone by looking at the content they put out there. If someone's promising, 8, 9-figure results, whatever, you can understand, look, the fact that somebody has said something, first of all, doesn't mean they've done it. The second thing is having a certain amount of sales. They could have spent $1 million on advertising and not made any profit and so on. You can always look them up on, Companies House and see the money they're making and so on. But more to the point, you have an incredible opportunity now to work with someone, as it were, before you work with them. So let me explain. I have a podcast, 3+ years worth of episodes now that you can dig into. Probably the first few ones, which I haven't listened to, aren't as good as the later ones, but there's certainly a lot of content for you to sample and understand a little bit about me. Of course, you have my website. I have a book that I've written. I do live workshops regularly. I do a 5-day challenge. You can sign up to my emails. You can watch these little videos, whatever channel you're on. And there are so many touch points, as we call it in marketing, for you to interact with me, to get a feel for me far and beyond what you would do if you just read my LinkedIn profile, let's say, or the website. So of course you can start with the basics of the LinkedIn profile, the website, the Instagram, whatever, but start by following someone. Take this opportunity, get their free content, download their PDF, their lead magnet, do their little video series, sign up to their workshops to get a feel for if their style is right for you, if you really feel they are credible and they kind of walk the talk, and if you think it's worth exploring working together. My favorite sales calls, as it were, are when I get people coming into the ecosystem. They've done the work, they've downloaded my free 5 pillars scorecard, they've joined a workshop, they know they want to work with me, and now it's a question of, okay, which program is right for you? Should we work one-to-one? Is it a group format? And for how long? And how can that work with your specific goals? That's such a pleasure for me, such a joy, and it means that I know that this person is going to be a great fit for me as well, because they're the kind of person who I love working with, someone who's done the work, who is motivated and committed and has put in that due diligence as well before working with me. I don't want someone who's just kind of found me randomly and says, yeah, let's check it out and see how it works, which I don't really get. So that's my favorite way of working with people. For you as a consumer, I know that you may have been burnt before. I think I've actually been quite lucky because I haven't signed up to anyone who's been a complete disaster, but I've heard horror stories, of course, of people paying $25,000 and then being completely, not getting the results, of course, that they were promised, and being kind of ghosted by the coach, and then having all sorts of legal issues trying to get money back and so on. So by all means, be cautious, but I believe that the opportunity to interact with someone, to understand what they're really about, to join workshops and so on before you even entertain the idea of working with someone is a great way to understand the integrity, the credibility, and the personality and the fit. Now, most coaches will then offer a discovery call, consultation call, whatever you want to call it, and use that opportunity to ask the questions. What makes you think that you can help me get these results? What results have you got for clients before? Have you worked with someone like me in the past? Now, one little caveat here is that if you're familiar with the concept of pure coaching, as a coach, we're guiding you, we're listening to you, we're drawing out what is already inside of you. So a lot of the work, of course, is down to you. There's this kind of crossover between business mentor and life coach, and that's a combination that I have. But strictly speaking, the pure coaching aspect of it is supporting you, and by no means can we promise you certain results. In fact, as a business mentor, likewise, I can't promise you results because I don't know the effort you're going to put in. I don't know what you have and haven't done in the past. Are you going to actually show up, do the work, and so on? Now, of course, the people who get the best results in my programs are the ones, as I said, who've done the kind of free stuff before, who show up to the calls, who fill in the strategy documents, who listen to the trainings, who show up and participate in LinkedIn. Because if you've paid the money, if you're showing up, that's the point, right? I can only do so much. Now, I'm probably more on it, I suppose, than some other people might be. If you have a really big program, it's very easy for you as a participant to hide and not to get the results. And that's kind of in your comfort zone. You can be over here and no one's really asking you how things are going. And you feel like you've paid the money, you're doing the work, but actually you're not going to get the results. In a smaller group, like my group programs, I'm really on you, if you want me to be, with accountability, checking in and so on. So it's harder to hide, but at the same time, it is down to you, what you want to achieve, how much are you willing to put in and so on. And again, I think most people understand that, you understand that too. So those are just a few things to consider. Again, take the opportunity to get to know someone before you invest lots of money. Ask to speak with previous clients. Again, I work with quite a range of people, and the fact that I haven't worked with your specific situation, the exact thing, is quite likely, in fact, but doesn't necessarily mean that I couldn't help you, right? I had someone ask, they're currently working in the legal profession, they want to move into politics. I haven't worked with that specific transition yet, but I can certainly apply the same principles of career transitions, building your personal brand, designing that strategy for you as well. So, be open-minded and understand that they might not have worked with your exact situation, but look for parallels, make sure you understand what their approach is going to be, and above all, again, get that fit for whether you want to work together. I guess final caveat here is, unfortunately, as I said, you may make mistakes. When you hire someone, it can take 3-4 hires until you get the right person in your team. Perhaps it's the same thing with a mentor, a coach, that the first times you work with people, you don't quite know what's going to work, what is the best fit for you, and that's okay. That's part of the learning process. Now, we don't want to have wasted £25,000, so maybe start with something a bit lower level just to sort of dip your toes into the water. And again, we generally have different tiers of programs, so you don't have to go for the big bang, massive investment up front. Of course, if you feel confident with somebody, then by all means, sometimes we need to take that leap of faith. We need to get out of our comfort zone. And the very act of investing significantly like that is often the catalyst for doing some incredible work. So a few things to think about there. Again, I'll be discussing this in more detail if you head on over to the podcast, reimaginingsuccesspodcast.com. And of course, hold me to account. Check out my profile, check out my website, onestepoutside.com, check out my video content, YouTube, podcast, book. Check me out. Roast me, as they say. Maybe don't roast me, but by all means, bring a critical eye and see, hey, is this somebody that I'd like to work with? Thanks so much for listening, and best of luck, whoever you decide to work with.